This is a letter from Jay, 2001, to his little girl. Now his little girl is 27 years old. My name is Antoinette. My son Jay is serving life without parole. When he got arrested, the emotions was so heavy. The emotions was extremely heavy. And all I could think about was like, what happened? Jay, how did this happen? How could I have stopped it from happening? That was my whole thing, like, what happened? I was depressed. Most of all, I was lonely because there was no support. All the phone calls was that I did get, did you see the news? Did you see Jay on the news? Of course I see my son on the news. I need a phone call to say, I'll be over there to support you through this. I was afraid to go outside. I started getting paranoid. I'm like, if I go outside, what's going to happen to me? I'm thinking like, so maybe the family members or friends of the victim might come after me. So I got very paranoid. I quit my job. I quit my job and I moved. But when I got that phone call from my mother telling me that they sentenced her baby, her first grandson, to life without parole, that's the day I actually shut down completely.
Life without parole shares certain irrevocable characteristics as the death penalty. It says that the person who has been convicted of such offense is beyond any hope of redemption or rehabilitation. And all they have coming from them is punishment, constriction, dehumanization, being reduced to a number, being exposed to adverse mental health consequences, to a greater risk of physical illness and lack of proper medical care and therefore mortality until they die.
This is not okay. This picture is not good. It's a dark picture. He will die in prison.
At a psychological and political level, the shame that's associated with having somebody in prison and the stigma leads to a lot of social repression, or people repressing the reality of what it means to have their loved ones in prison.
I used to make his youngest brother, Ron, go see him. And soon he turned 18. He said, guess what, mother? I'm like, what? He's like, I'm never going to see my brother again. And I'm like, why? You know, that's your brother. But I have to understand why he chose never to go back into the prison. He said it's too much. He said, I can't handle that. He said, that's just too much pain and it hurt too bad. When you have somebody that did something or accused or whatever, somebody that did something really bad, need to take the time out and really talk to that person. I think we need to, don't just put them in a box and leave them there and say, okay, we solved the problem. Because just putting them in a box and forgetting about them, that's not helping the situation at all. It's just making it worse.
You know, a lot of people like to say, okay, well, this person being in jail and dying in prison is something that will bring about closure. That's just not the case. We still have to understand that when somebody is serving life without parole, that there's a family who is also being harmed in that. And we need to start bringing those two sides together because it's not an us versus them thing. Crime and mass incarceration impact all of us, and we need to start kind of reframing and reshaping how we talk about punishment and talking about people who offend and talking about public safety so that we are not an us versus them type of adversarial system.
That all changed in the 1980s. The era of what's been called mass incarceration, perhaps more accurately called mass criminalization, really ramped up. That includes in Pennsylvania. The number of people being sent away for life sentences skyrocketed, especially out of Philadelphia, which is the world leader, at least in total number of people sentenced to life without parole. And under the Republican Governor Thornburg, commutations dwindled to a trickle. And then in the mid-90s, after the debacle with Reginald McFadden, a juvenile lifer had been commuted and committed multiple homicides and rapes. Not long after that, commutation it diminished to less than a trickle, if we could say.
I can't pardon my father from getting murdered. I buried my father the day before Christmas. I can't even fathom a decision to pardon this man. But that's not up to me. That's up to every one of you.
Mercy must be a partner of justice, and the whole Judeo-Christian ethos underpins a lot of our criminal justice system in our society, and forgiveness and redemption is a major tenet of that philosophy. And why would we want it to be removed from our criminal justice system, where it is perhaps needed more than anywhere else? Before you carry out the most severe punishment or penalty available, to die in prison, don't we want to be damn sure that it makes sense? And if you're not moved by the morality of the argument, why would we as a society, that has schools being shuttered because of asbestos contamination, spend tens of millions of dollars on incarcerating elderly prisoners that in many cases maybe never even took a life, or might be even innocent? Why wouldn't we want to revisit this? Why wouldn't we want to investigate these cases?
This has been a wound for 26 years, 27 years. And I pretend like it wasn't there. So you got this wound that's still here. It's still bleeding. How am I going to stop it? Where do I begin to heal it? How do I heal it? Just pray one day that he could be free and that everybody can hear his story. Give him a chance to tell his story.